Good day today. A couple things. I'm sure you guys have questions. That's nothing new in terms of what's been reported on Matthew. The aggravated disc is what led to the sore back. So all those things are true. And part of getting the epidural was part of the plans dealing with Dr. Watkins in terms of what we felt like was the best case and best scenario to be able to allow him to be as healthy as possible. He's due to get a good workout in on the day of our preseason game where he's going to throw. And that was on par with the schedule that we always had. You'll see him in practice next week. He won't participate in the Chargers practice just because of we're looking at it like he's got an acclimation period that'll really start on Saturday once we play the Cowboys. And so August 8th was always kind of that day. Our players end up being the day before the preseason game. We just have a modified workload. But Saturday, for the guys not playing in that preseason game, will represent a great opportunity for Matthew to really start getting out on the field with his guys. And then whenever we come back on Monday, you'll start to see him take part in individuals, all those things, which is exactly what was on par with the plan. And then you'll start to see him get into practice with our group. Because of the uncontrolled parameters, when we do go against the Chargers, we'll hold him out of that practice. And then you'll just continue to see his workload increase as long as he's feeling good. But that's not any new news. Maybe you have a little bit more parameters, but this has all been part of the original plan all along. And surely you don't have any follow-up questions then. I'm just kidding. He bumped knees. He and Fisk bumped knees on a little game right there. And so we'll hope that he ends up being okay off of that. He's been doing static throwing at him and different things like that. So it's going to be kind of in alignment with a little bit more of an increase, but something that we feel really good about. And this was kind of the plan all along. I've kind of held back some of the specifics with you guys, but because of some of the parameters that are, out there, might as well just provide some more context for you guys. And so this was kind of part of the plan. August 8th was always kind of that date that we had in mind. When I was talking about week to week for you guys, we weren't really sure when we talked to Dr. Watkins what would that mean in terms of the Chargers practice, but really looking at it and saying, okay, easing him back in and really being able to build him back up is the smart thing. What I do think is important, if this was in season, he would be playing right now. So that is, we have taken a very cautious approach, but if we were playing a game this week, he would be playing in the game. I think that's important for you guys to be aware of as well. No, you know what? He had a little bit of soreness, over the break from the time in between Maui and then when we ended up coming back. He was throwing and feeling good. Had a little bit of soreness in there, went and got it checked out, and, you can't be too smart with these types of things. And so it did show there was a little bit of an aggravated disc. Felt like the best plan of attack would be to do that epidural and then listening to Dr. Watkins and being able to listen to how Matthew feels. Wanted to err on the side of caution, kind of like what I've shared with you guys. And as of right now, everything is on track to be able to get him a good month of work before we end up opening up against the Texans.
Are there any health updates on Terrance, Ferguson, and Landman?
Those guys are, they're kind of day-to-day with the soft tissue stuff. Nate Landman's got a little bit of a calf. Terrance with his groin. So those things can kind of be real challenging. And I know those guys really, Emmanuel Forbes is in that group too with his calf or his hamstring. And so a lot of those guys that are dealing with soft tissue stuff right now, they want to get out there as soon as possible. But I kind of defer to Reggie on those types of things. No, I don't know that. I know that he's had some similar things in terms of, the disc, being aggravated before going back to Detroit, but, I wouldn't be equipped to fully answer that.
What do you expect to see from Stetson Bennett, at least this weekend, maybe preseason involved? How does that compare to the way you evaluated him last week?
I just want to see him continue to do what he's done. Keep taking steps in the right direction. I think most importantly, Stu, I've seen a guy that's enjoying it and is totally immersed and present out on the field and being able to move from one snap to the next. I think you're looking for good operation in and out of the huddle, good command, good ability to be able to read with his feet and be able to distribute the ball where it goes. And then part of the thing that makes his game fun is when things go off schedule, he can do some pretty creative stuff just by, being the natural and instinctive athlete that he is. But more than anything, the good operation and really just enjoy the opportunity to go compete and show the work that he's put in. No, I don't have anything on him. He's dealing with a little bit of a back as well. So he's kind of week to week right now. Yeah, I want to see those guys. I want to see them be able to pick and choose the right spots. I think one of the things that's hardest to evaluate in these types of settings, Kurt, is these running backs. You don't get tackled. So I want to see these guys be able to level their pads off, play well without the football, but do the things that Ron's coaching, snap in and snap out. And then, when you see some of the cool opportunities to be able to create on your own, if that presents itself, let's see that come to life as well.
What are your thoughts on the job McClendon did at joint practice on the field?
I thought he was awesome. Warren is a guy that I think he's taken as many strides as anybody. I think Ryan Wendell as a whole has just done such a great job with that offensive line group, in addition to Zach Cromer, Brian Allen. It's great to be able to have Mike Munchak anytime that he comes around, and, his experience and his wisdom and knowledge. But I've been really pleased with Warren. He's obviously very comfortable playing on the right side. I thought the times that he had to come in for Rob Havenstein last year, he did a great job. And now you're seeing a guy that has also shown that he can be really functional and is continuing to get better playing the left tackle as well, getting comfortable to play in both of those stances. I'm really proud of Warren, want to continue to see him take those steps, but he did a nice job.
Couple more, guys.
I do, yes. You know what? He got a little chest contusion, when they brought one of their internal blitzes the other day. He's okay. We were just kind of being smarter than anything else. Puna, came out of that practice good, but he had a little soreness in his groin, so that's why you didn't see him out there as well. But by the time we get back out there was a handful of guys that were kind of in that. We could push it, but, they got a bunch of good work in that basically was trying to simulate a game for us, Adam. And, the next time that we'll really be back at it in a competitive setting will be next Monday. And so some of those guys, we erred on the side of caution. Akella Witherspoon was one of those guys. There was a lot of guys that were missing today. We're still working through those types of things, but I would say it's more likely that he won't. Yeah, I'm looking at them all. I think one of the things, you mentioned, I got asked, from Stu about the runners. I'm looking forward to watching Blake, watching Jarquez Hunter and Ronnie and those guys run. Looking forward to seeing, our outside linebackers play. Obviously we know Verse and BY are, pretty, solidified. And then, there's a lot of great competition behind those guys for a lot of different roles and responsibilities based on the personnel that we're in. And so that's another spot that I'm looking for. It'll be a little bit of a mix and match. So for this game, Mike will call it for the offense. Greg Williams will call it for the defense. And then, I could go through. You want me to go through the whole preseason for you right now? But that's for this week. I'll do it when we get to those games. I'll leave it to Aubrey in week 2. He's got to answer those questions.
Last preseason, Jordan Whittington really stood out with the play. This preseason, at wide receiver, you seem to have a lot of depth in playing.
Sure. I think it is, and I think these guys have really started to show. We've had a lot of good opportunities to evaluate these guys. Jay Witt did a great job last. You could really feel. I thought his game day demeanor, even in a preseason, was outstanding. That's how I felt about Puka the previous year. Jay Witt is no moment's too big for him. But I'm looking forward to watching guys like Xavier take steps in the right direction. Kanate, has really done a nice job, and you're seeing guys like Mario Williams, Britton Covey made a couple good plays today. So I'm looking forward to watching that group as well.